You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It is September the 8th, and welcome to Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News. I seen I had the wrong layout there when we got started, but that's fine. It's over and done with. We're moving on. Just so you know, today in the news, we've got some changes coming in Thailand. German scientists call for approvals of more research. Is Massachusetts going backwards when it comes to cannabis legalization? And can POTUS wave a magic wand to make cannabis legal? But first, we're starting off by talking about psychedelics with a headline that says, new study offers more evidence that LSD can treat anxiety. And this comes to me from the InsideHook.com. Headlines, or the story says that in 2017 article for the Guardian about the documentary Becoming Cary Grant, writer Xan Brooks noted that one of the film's most curious aspects, the way it highlighted an overlooked part of the 20th century medical history. Between 1950 and 1965, around 40,000 patients were prescribed LSD to treat conditions as diverse as alcoholism, schizophrenia, and PTSD. Brooks wrote a reminder that before its countercultural cache, LSD was used as a way to address mental health issues. It almost sounds like the cannabis end of things, doesn't it? As the saying goes, everything old is new again. A growing number of research studies have documented LSD's ability to treat various psychological conditions. The latest of these, published earlier this month in the Journal of American Medical Association, explored the effects of MM120, described by pharmaceutical company MindMed as a proprietary pharmaceutically optimized form of LSD on generalized anxiety disorder. What did these researchers find? As the paper's authors phrased it, in participants with moderate to severe, which is generally anxiety disorder, a single dose of MM120 produced a dose-dependent reduction in anxiety. In cases where the participants received 100 or 200 milligram doses, the effects outperforms the effects of those given a placebo. In an article on the study and its results, NPR's John Hamilton noted that the dosing was accompanied by, well, what do you expect? If you took a psychedelic substance, hallucinations. Interestingly, the study also shows that 10% of the participants who received the placebo experienced delusion, psychohallucination, and visual hallucination. Among the questions that remain, Hamilton reports are the effects of the environment where the studies took place on the results. Still, it's encouraging data before the next round of testing begins and the beginnings of a full circle moment in mental health. So there you go. LSD. Who would have thought? It's helping patients and helping people with mental health conditions. I know back in the 70s, I know nobody was probably thinking that. Not the people I knew anyways. Alrighty, move on to my next story. As I get her all lined up here, gotta find it. Of course, nothing's ever in order. And this one is coming to us from, come on, Leafly. Headline says pro-cannabis Anton Sharnivarokal becomes new Prime Minister of Thailand. Now, Anton, I'm just going to call him Anton. He's a politician known as the Cannabis King. He has been selected by a majority of politicians to become the first Prime Minister of Thailand. Now, Anton becomes the third PM in the past 3 years, and he does so only a week after the preceding PM, Puntang Tarn, was dismissed following an ethics violation. Now, the 58-year-old politician's appointment is significant for the newly minted Thai cannabis industry, as regulations introduced by a previous, more conservative administration led by then PM Sretha Thasan continue to affect business owners, consumers, and tourists alike. In 2022, Thailand shocked the world, becoming the first country in Asia to legalize the use, sale, and cultivation of cannabis. Less than 12 months later, a new administration started making preparations to change the law, which came into effect in June of 2025. Now, opponents of cannabis in Thailand highlighted the large number of cannabis clubs and shops that they say were operating irresponsibly. The new regulations introduced to tackle the problem effectively destroyed the recreational market by forcing consumers to sign up for a medical prescription from a doctor to purchase products. Now, Anton was an integral player in the movement to bring change to Thailand's cannabis laws in 2022. He received the moniker Cannabis King due to his vocal support for making the plant legal, a move that he said would help with prison overcrowding, boost the agricultural industry in Thailand's rural areas, and increase tourism. Now, in 2022, he staged a publicity stunt designed to attract attention to his goal of changing the law, in which he proposed to give away 1 million free cannabis plants. In 2023 election, he sported a cannabis leaf designed shirt when casting his vote. In a previous role as a health minister, he championed the health benefits of cannabis. It is yet to be seen if Prime Minister Anton will reverse the new cannabis regulations or continue on the path chosen by the previous administration. A source close to Leafly, who lives in Bangkok, doesn't think the new PM will change too much. They claim the PM is a money man who stands with big business and that the changes made were done so to price smaller cannabis businesses out of the market, leaving larger cannabis businesses to take over. So they got a new PM in Thailand. He was involved in when they legalized it there a couple of years ago. Really bring change, bring it back to where it was. According to that writer, it doesn't look that way. Some people thought it was a little bit, because there was no law. Really, it was sort of removed from the books. So, it'd be nice if he added the recreational part back into it, being that the previous PM took that out and just basically left the medical end there. So, alrighty, moving from Thailand, we're coming to Canada, and according to StrapCan, the headline there says, Health Canada continues to increase inspections of federal license holders. Story says the number of Health Canada inspections of federally licensed cannabis facilities and license holders increased in the 2024-25 fiscal year compared to previous years. From August 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025, the federal regulator conducted a total of 889 inspections under the Cannabis Act and its regulations. That's up from 662 in the previous 2 years. This most recent year included 197 inspections of registered personal and designated production of cannabis for medical purposes licensees, up from 160 in the previous year and 170 in the year prior to that. There were also 26 inspections targeting promotional activities conducted at both licensed and non-licensed establishments over this period, in addition to ongoing compliance verification activities related to promotion prohibitions. In total, there were 437 regular inspections from April 1st to March 31st, from 2024 to 2025, 101 targeted inspections, and 128 compliance verifications, 197 inspections of registered personnel and designated production of cannabis for medical purposes, and 26 promotional inspections. Of the 666 regular, targeted, and compliance verification inspections of licensed producers, there were 685 different site visits, with some producers receiving multiple visits on different dates. There's your chart right there. There were 155 additional activities, including sampling, seizure, and detention, and destructions conducted. About 1/3 of these were for sampling activities. 57 were for compliance and enforcement activities for registered personnel and designated production of cannabis for medical purposes, and 40 were for compliance and enforcement activities for license holders. As a result of the 889 inspection activities, Health Canada's Cannabis Inspection Program issued 37 non-compliance inspection reports to license holders under the Cannabis Act and its regulations. This was up from 21 in the previous fiscal year. Those 37 non-compliant inspection reports in 2024-2025 included 1 seizure and detention of projects, 1 destruction, 2 warning letters issued to formally advise license holders of their non-compliance and to request corrective measures, and 10 stop sales initiated. There were 339 major observations found and 554 minor observations. In addition to the 26 promotion and inspection activities, Health Canada also created 436 cases of potential non-compliance related to promotions. This resulted in 130 actions with regulated parties, which can include warning letters, compliance emails, or letters, administration monetary penalties, and compliance promotion emails or calls. During the reporting period, Health Canada initiated 68 compliance emails or letters and 67 compliance promotions emails or calls. Now, Health Canada has been significantly ramping up its inspections of those licensed for personal or designated production of cannabis for medical purposes over the last year, and this is for non-commercial. Of the 197 inspections of these types of license holders, 99 were in British Columbia, 74 in Ontario, 19 in Quebec, and 5 were in Alberta. 93 of these inspections received a level 3 rating, most severe. 56 inspections received a level 2 rating. 37 inspections received a level 1 rating, and 11 inspections were not rated. A level 3 rating is defined as one where the observations noted resulted in a clear risk to public health or public safety, or risk of cannabis being diverted to an illicit market or activity, or public activity. The non-compliances are considered severe, and further enforcement action may be required to prevent risks to public health and public safety. All 3 levels are explained in further details at a link that's provided there. Health Canada revoked or refused 50 registrations, and additional actions are currently ongoing or under consideration based on these 197 inspections. There were 29 such revocations of refusals in the previous fiscal year. So there you go. Health Canada has stepped up the inspections. I know for years that one particular political party has been screaming about loopholes, and some municipalities have been screaming about it as well. And so the inspections are increasing. I remember at one time that we weren't even hearing about inspections going on. Some people thought that maybe there might have been maybe a dozen throughout the whole year that was going on, and now, according to that report, there's close to 200 of them that are happening. So, all right, we're going to head off to Germany because of the headline at the International Cannabis Business Conference says that German scientists call for approval of cannabis research projects. Yes, way to go, put some emphasis on them and get this stuff done. Cannabis policies and regulations should be informed by science rather than driven by political propaganda or special interest. This is true for every part of the world, including in Germany, where a coalition of leading scientists is calling on the nation's government to approve cannabis research projects. Lawmakers in Germany enacted the nation's historic legalization law in April of 2024, while the landmark policy change has improved Germany's cannabis industry and personal freedoms in many ways. Progress on the scientific research side of the equation is still lagging in a large degree. That was recently called out by the coalition of scientists in an open letter addressed to the federal government and the Federal Office of Agriculture and Food. According to this, they're calling it out here. They say, despite the accompanying EcoCan research, Germany lacks a reliable database on the use of cannabis. Research projects pursuant to Section 2, Paragraph 4 of the Cannabis Act are legally permissible and crucial for still unresolved questions regarding youth and health protection, the illegal market and consumer behavior. The undersigned scientists therefore call on the federal government and the Federal Office of Agriculture and Food to quickly approve the current applications in order to enable an evidence-based drug policy, the letter states. Goes on to say that we, the scientists researching cannabis, see an urgent need for action. The access channels established under the Consumer Cannabis Act are insufficient to create a relevant database on the societal and thus scientific challenges associated with using cannabis as a recreational drug. Relevant scientific questions continue to be ignored despite current efforts such as the accompanying research project EcoCan. Specifically, supported research projects pursuant to Section 2, Paragraph 4 of the Consumers Cannabis Act can remedy this situation by finally generating the urgently needed comprehensive database. Now, the open letter was signed by the following German scientists and medical professionals. And no, I'm not going to read out that list of names, but you can see there are several of them. Now, a major premise of Germany's adult use legalization model is to boost public health outcomes by transitioning recreational consumers away from products sourced from the unregulated market to a combination of regulated products and home cultivation. Without proper research and publishing of collected data, there's virtually no way to know how effective the nation's legalization model is proving to be. The letter goes on to say, the federal government has committed to an evaluation of the Cannabis Act in its current coalition agreement. This requires sound empirical basis. Projects pursuant to Section 2, Paragraph 4 of the Cannabis Act are necessary to close significant gaps. Now, that act, they say it's the so-called research clause, which apparently, obviously, is not being followed. We, the undersigned scientists, are concerned that not a single scientific, non-medical research project on cannabis has been approved so far, despite the fact that numerous universities, cities, and project networks are ready and comprehensive applications with study plans have been submitted to the responsible authority, the Federal Office of Agriculture and Food. Instead, political and administrative uncertainties seem to be causing scientifically conceived projects to stall. As scientists, we therefore appeal to the federal government and subordinate authorities to review and approve research applications pursuant to Section 2, 4 of the Narcotics Act as quickly as possible in order to avoid unnecessary delaying scientific progress. The planned research projects not only create a constitutionally protected space for evidence-based knowledge and acquisition, but also make crucial contributions to the clarifying key societal issues surrounding cannabis, which are often discussed ideologically. The research potentially goes far beyond the analysis of consumption behavior. It provides, in particular, insights for youth in health protection, crime, and addiction prevention, the assessment of socioeconomic impacts, as well as the development of effective and legally sound regulatory models. We also need to scientifically understand how legal structures work. Together with authorities and municipalities, well-founded analysis and practice-oriented accompanying research are essential for effective and responsible regulation in the future. Legal value creation is key to effectively displacing the legal market and simultaneously creating social health and economic added value, the letter continues with. Now, the German coalition poses a series of important questions that need to be answered through approved scientific research. Now, let's see what they are. What effects do research projects have on child protection, prevention, and harm reduction? What impact do pilot projects have on crime, trends in the illegal market? What regional and national economic benefits can be demonstrated? Example, tax revenues, legal costs, and healthcare. And what standards for quality, counseling, and education can be developed? Germany, they say here, they point out more in their letter, Germany must not leave the question of how responsible regulations can work unanswered and should investigate it scientifically. Other countries, such as Netherlands and Switzerland, show that scientific research projects can provide valuable insights for informed regulation. Anyone who wants a rational, evidence-based drug policy must enable research, not prevent it. Otherwise, Germany risks falling behind scientifically. Get these last paragraphs in. Regional adult use cannabis commerce pilot project research projects are operating in several jurisdictions in the Netherlands and Switzerland with no major issues being reported. Meanwhile, important data and valuable insights are being gained in those European nations, and that in return is helping lawmakers and regulators. The letter concludes with, "We are ready. Our concepts are in place. Please give science the space it needs." Well, there you go. They don't, they're obviously, Germany doesn't want, or the government anyways is looking that way. They don't want that research to be done. You know, it's not medical research, but it is research that can help shape policy, especially if you look at it, if it's proven beneficial to society. That's the type of research I would think that one would want out and to be shown. All right, I am done the first half of the show. It's time for me to take a break. Thanks for the love, JJ. Appreciate it. Other than that, as I said, medication time. Off I go. I'll be right back. And in about, let's say 3 minutes or so, I got 4 more stories. We're going to go to the U.S. heavily in the next half. Lots going on down there in the cannabis file. So I like to make sure that our cannabis consumers south of the border are aware of what's going on. All right, you're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, I'm back from my break, and I hope you're having an awesome day, just like Steve's singing in that song. All right, as I said before the break, I got 4 more stories, mostly heavily leaned on the U.S. end of things. So let's get at her. Here we go. This one comes to us from the Cannabis Business Times. Headline says, Massachusetts AG approves ballot petition to end the $1.6 billion adult use cannabis market. Okay, that doesn't sound too good. Let's see what it says. No state citizenry has backtracked on cannabis legalization after a licensed and regulated program was implemented, but prohibitionists are hoping to offer Massachusetts voters the opportunity. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell certified 2 versions of a 2026 ballot initiative petition on September the 3rd that intend to repeal cannabis laws governing the Commonwealth's commercial adult use cannabis marketplace, including licensed cultivation dispensary operations. Think of that, people. Just saying it. They're going to shut down legalization, or are attempting to shut down legalization in Massachusetts. It can happen in this state. It can happen somewhere else. That's why you say you got to do it federally. Now, in other words, the petition would undo the cannabis legalization measure that Massachusetts voters passed with a 54% majority in the 2016 election by halting an industry that has produced more than $8.3 billion in retail revenue, nearly $900 million in excise tax revenue, and roughly $440 million in sales tax revenue since dispensary sales launched in December of 2018. Now, that's according to the state's Cannabis Control Commission. Furthermore, Massachusetts licensed cannabis market supports 27,000 some jobs, according to industry hiring platform Vengist. The petition, any act to restore sensible marijuana policy, is driven by Carolina Cunningham, a political consultant, campaign manager, and professional fundraiser who aligns with the prohibitionist group Smart Approaches to Marijuana, the same group that shut down the rescheduling process. Cunningham and her fellow proponents of the petition can now start gathering the 74,574 signatures of registered voters they'll need to submit to the Secretary of Commonwealth by December the 3rd to work towards qualifying for the ballot. Once those signatures are verified, the Massachusetts 2026 legislature reserves the right to consider the proposal. If lawmakers don't act on it by May 6, 2026, the proponents would need to gather another 12,429 signatures by July the 1st to qualify for the proposed law for the November 2026 election, according to Campbell's office. Now, Campbell says, I applaud the civic engagement of our residents who filed a record-breaking 47 ballot initiation petitions this year. My office reviews each petition according to the strict criteria outlined in Article 48 of our state constitution. Our personal opinions and any constitutional considerations outside of Article 48 cannot weigh into our decision-making about certification of a petition. While Cunningham aims to eradicate Massachusetts tax and regulated adult use market, version A, of her certified petition would also subject the state's medical cannabis market to a new potency limitations, including a 30% THC cap on flower and 60% THC limit on concentrates. In addition, it would prohibit concentrated forms of medical cannabis that fail to provide a metered delivery serving of 5 milligrams of THC with no more than 20 metered doses per package, which means 100 milligrams. Meanwhile, version B of the petition does not include those potency or doses requirements. Both versions continue the state's medical cannabis program and are otherwise identical. Also, under the proposal, possessing up to 1 ounce of cannabis or 5 grams of concentrate would be decriminalized for those 21 and older, as would gifting those amounts between adults. Possessing between 1 and 2 ounces of cannabis would subject individuals to civil penalties of $100 and product forfeiture, while those 21 younger than 21 would also have to complete a drug awareness program and community service. The proposal would provide certain protections for those who possess less than 2 ounces of cannabis, such as access to student financial aid, public housing, or financial assistance, such as unemployment benefits, the right to operate motor vehicle, or to serve as a foster or adoptive parent. Cannabis use also would not disqualify a person from needing medical procedures. And just so you know, people have been denied transplants because they used cannabis. Primarily, the petition would drive adult use cannabis consumers out of the licensed, tested, and taxed marketplace. In the absence of an adult use commercial operators, 91% of Massachusetts regulated cannabis market would cease to exist, according to an exclusive medical report published last month by the Cannabis Business Times. The proposed law would allow currently licensed adult recreational cannabis businesses to apply on an expedient basis to become a licensed medical cannabis dispensary and to sell the remaining inventory of adult recreational cannabis to medical cannabis dispensaries, according to an official summary of the petition. The proposed law would retain the Cannabis Control Commission, but modify its authority so it would regulate only the medical marijuana market. If passed by voters, the proposed law would become effective January the 1st, 2028. Can you believe that? People voting to remove the right to access to cannabis. People fought for years for this, and then all of a sudden they want to change it years later. Like, they don't even, nothing even mentioned about as far as what caused that reason for those petitions to be created, other than the fact that Smart is involved in it, and Kevin Sabat and that whole group of prohibitionists, and they're just going around trying to shut down cannabis legalization is all they're doing. So, all right, we're going to move on to our next story. All right, and this one, just so I make sure I got the right one here. There we go. Headline on it says, Manufacturer Optimism. Why Trump can't just wave a magic wand and reschedule cannabis. This comes to me from the business of cannabis. There we go. It's a long story, so I'm not sure. I may cut a little bit out of it here and there, but we'll see what's going on. There is a frustrating misimpression circulating in the cannabis community regarding rescheduling. Many headlines state that Trump is considering finishing the rescheduling process in the next few weeks. These easy scan headlines give the impression that he can just wave a magic wand to make this happen by penning an executive order or simply telling the DEA and DOJ to finish the process. It's not quite that simple. And investors may want to know more about the administration's available options and political hurdles before going all in on big cannabis. So why President Trump can't just reschedule cannabis unilaterally? The rules for scheduling drugs are set by the Controlled Substances Act. By law, rescheduling must run through specific agencies and can't be accomplished by executive order. Furthermore, rescheduling requires a rigorous scientific evaluation of FDA HHS with very few exceptions, and the current recommendation under discussion deviates from the traditional 8-point analysis. So President Trump might even be limited in terms of political pressure. This deviation, along with other objections, spurred Nebraska AG Mike Hilgers to pen an objection letter with 11 GOP states that outlines their legal arguments against the current recommendation. This letter basically promises a lawsuit if rescheduling moves forward. In short, his letter argues that the notice of proposed rulemaking is procedural and invalid because it's not signed by the DEA administrator. Mind you, Bondi could cure this. Rescheduling breaches U.S. treaty obligations. HHS's 2-factor test skips required abuse, dependence, and public health analysis. Rescheduling will increase cross-border enforcement costs. If rescheduling moves forward, Hilgers and them will also certainly file suit and ask for an injunction based on what they say are concrete and defendable harms, and they may even get it. This lawsuit could block any final rule and force a full evaluation based on traditional factors, and courts have historically blocked attempts to skip CSA procedure. Unfortunately, this isn't a hot mess that President Trump can bypass with an executive order or any other unilateral action. Beyond this obvious and necessary point, Trump's statements has hardly a promise to reschedule cannabis in the first place. I got hiccups, people. Now, what President Trump actually said? Now, Trump simply stated that he would come to a decision. He didn't say whether it would be approved, denied, or moved to Schedule 2, 3, or a different schedule. Specifically, he said, we're looking at it. Some people like it. Some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of cannabis because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for the people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification. We'll make a determination over the next few weeks. And that determination, hopefully, will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject. You know, the subject of marijuana. Not good for kids and not good for people older than children. That's adults. This is hardly a glowing endorsement of Schedule 3, and this administration is under a lot of pressure from the anti-cannabis establishment to leave cannabis in Schedule 1. Or worse for businesses, move it to Schedule 2, which is absolutely an option. Now, I'd say for now, the most important question on the table are, what can President Trump actually do, and what is he willing to do? Here's what Trump actually has the power to do if he decides he wants the cannabis reform to happen pre-midterm election. Number 1, tell Cole to do it. That's Terrence Cole. And if he doesn't, fire him and appoint someone who will toe the line. This would be the fastest route to finish, although they'd still be required to complete the full process. It's also the most unlikely possibility with the current anti-cartel actions in South America. Zero chance of this happening, they say. Get Bonnie to do it. The AG technically holds scheduling authority, with DEA acting under delegation. Trump could revoke DEA's delegated authority and make scheduling a direct DOJ AG function. That cuts the DEA and its insider cannabis opponents out of the loop almost entirely. But Pam Bondi is also largely anti-cannabis, so she'd have to have a serious change of heart and actually mean it. Instruct the DOJ to create another Cole Memo 2.0. Now, ironic given we have a Cole in the DEA again, exactly. It may be the most realistic option at this point, but leaves us still in internal limbo and with tax penalties. Not that rescheduling is a guarantee of tax relief anyways. Now you can lean on cannabis or Congress to reschedule, or better, federally legalize cannabis, and the MORE Act was just introduced again. But anti-cannabis hardliners in Congress will almost certainly block this legislation. The wild card, number 5, they say, it is Trump after all. He could use other forms of political leverage to neutralize resistance, but that risks alienating the law and order wing, undermining the war against fentanyl and provoking lawsuits. Considering the current anti-narcotic operations in South Africa, this option simply isn't on the table right now. Number 6, they can ask the DEA to reschedule to Schedule 2 without notice and comment via 21 U.S.C. 811. This option wouldn't work for Schedule 3 because an international treaty requires the tightest controls for cannabis. But technically, DEA, DOJ could opt for cannabis for Schedule 2 and bypass rulemaking if the action is intended to comply with international treaties. This would involve DEA arguing the need to control state markets while recognizing medical value. However, it's actually more likely that this section of the law would be used to keep cannabis in Schedule 1, regardless of its recommendations made by the HHS. This is a very real possibility. This is why we still haven't seen any movement on rescheduling more than half a year into the new administration. Yet headlines are literally implying that President Trump could just wave a pen and make it happen. Such blatantly misplaced optimism is almost certainly aimed at warming investor enthusiasm, and it's misleading at best. Yes, change is coming at the federal level eventually, but whether this change will benefit existing businesses is highly speculative. Now, this is a political reality, they say. All the Trump can wave wand optimism overlooks this. DOJ capitalizing on renewed anti-cartel momentum. This isn't policy nuance. It's a hardline posture. GOP lawmakers are framing rescheduling as weakening the drug law credibility and even serving narco organizations. Even if rescheduling is on the table, it comes with a bureaucratic minefield rather than the clean legislative getaway. In light of the current gun-bolt diplomacy with South America, we have to realistically consider the political implications of rescheduling beyond the obvious point that the DOJ doesn't want to give up an enforcement tool right now. Here are few of the rescheduling implications under consideration. Foreign policy leverage. If they decide to keep cannabis in Schedule 1 or move it to Schedule 2, Washington could point to their tough drug laws at home stance while accusing Venezuela, Colombia, and others lax enforcement and cartel support. Optics matter here. Trump doesn't want to look soft abroad. Funding and asset seizures. Schedule 1 status enables broader asset forfeiture and extraction hooks under international narcotics treaties. DOJ depends on these justifications for billion-dollar seizures and extraction requests related to cannabis shipments. That's a lever that enforcement doesn't want to lose while waving around $50 million bounties on Maduro. Now, congressional cover for hawks Anti-cannabis drug warriors in Congress are framing rescheduling as giving cartels a tax break. This messaging dovetails perfectly with the current anti-cartel narrative. Military and civilian coordination. The DEA often embeds with DOD in counter-narcotics missions like Southcom. As long as cannabis is Schedule 1, these joint ops can count cannabis seizures in the success metrics. Rescheduling undermines bureaucratic scorekeeping in a drug war that thrives on statistics. Now, public opinion management, rolling out cannabis rescheduling while cracking down on Maduro risk mixed messaging. Are we fighting cartels or funding them? Even that's nonsense politically, it lands. Now, international treaty constraints. The single convention on narcotics drugs still requires tight control over cannabis. The U.S. is already stretching compliance with the state legal market. Rescheduling further loosens that rope, opening critics to say you're violating treaties while demanding Venezuela obeys them. Hypocrisy is ammo, and the DOJ, DEA knows this. Now, they say the point here is that the decision isn't taking place in a vacuum, and despite overwhelming public support for cannabis reform, there are powerful forces working against rescheduling it. It may take some seriously political judo to get past these hurdles. Perhaps a real question should be asked is how his administration could thread the needle and give the appearance of reform while still satisfying hardliners. There's no question about the political pressure from both sides. The administration's Heritage Foundation handlers have the funding and the political pull to push for continued criminalization, but midterms are coming and the cannabis legalization is an incredible salient issue with massive public support. So might Trump try to pull off some form of rescheduling judo, giving the appearance of progress while still giving in to hardliners? Absolutely. And Schedule 2 might seem like the perfect solution to the administration trapped between these interests. Even if Trump finishes rescheduling to Schedule 3, expect strings attached. The administration has no interest in giving up cartel enforcement tools in the middle of a Venezuela standoff and a South African drug war narrative. Investors shouldn't confuse the Schedule 3 high headline with a free market green rush. The Drug Policy Alliance recognizes the current political climate and is collecting signatures to push for complete descheduling. Whether or not this is a realistic ask in the current political environment, it's worth letting them know our thoughts. There you go. Exactly. Lots of points in that article about not being able to just executive orders, why you can't do this, why you can't do. I think some of it also probably answered why there was such a stall even under the Biden administration to reschedule it, and why the DEA didn't sign the paperwork to do it. It was signed by what's his name instead. Unfortunately, that name is slipping me right now. Yeah, Mark Garland. There we go. By the last DEA fellow, but Attorney General, I mean, and Merrick Garland. There we go. He had to sign it because the lady who's dealing Milligram, last name was, she didn't sign the paperwork. So it'd be interesting to find out what's going on there. All right. So how do Americans feel about cannabis? They kept saying in there, there is some strong support. So let's just see what they say. I just happen to have an article that is going to tell us that. And this article comes to us from Entrepreneur, and what it says is that majority of voters believe legalizing cannabis nationwide is a good idea. Yes, they do. According to an Emerson College poll published on August the 29th, majority of voters, 65% of them, believe legalizing cannabis nationwide is a good idea, while 45% believe it is in the wrong direction. The total represents a 5-point increase in support from October 2024 polling by the college, which found a 60-40 split. Now, Spencer Kimball, executive director of Emerson College Polling, noted that all age groups think national marijuana legalization is a good idea, except those over 70 who think it is a bad idea. That's at 52 to 48%. The poll found support highest among voters under 30 at 71%, and in their 40s, 74%. Support among those 30 did decline from the October poll, which found 78% among the cohorts of for the reforms, while support among 40-year-olds was 6 points higher. In a statement, Deputy Director Paul Armadetto says the poll shows that the electorate is clearly ready for cannabis to be legalized for adult use. Legalizing and regulating adult use cannabis access is not only good policy, but it's also good politics, Armadetto says. State and federal politicians will continue to ignore their constituent sentiments on these issues, do so at their own political peril. Well, look what they're doing in Massachusetts. Now, the Emerson College Polling National Survey was conducted August the 25th to the 26th of this year. So the people want it. People want it. Isn't the government there to represent the people? The people want cannabis to be legalized. Get off your asses and do it, will you? Gee, it's just, while they're stalling in the U.S., look what's happening elsewhere. As I go on to my last story of the day, and this comes to me from the International Business of Cannabis, and it says Switzerland opens public consultation on cannabis legalization. Switzerland has officially opened a 3-month public consultation period for its proposed national adult use cannabis legalization model and will accept comments on the new draft of the Swiss CanPG measure until December the 1st. The European nation's National Cannabis or Council's Social Security and Public Health Committee gave preliminary approval to an adult use cannabis legalization plan by a 14-9 vote in February. Now, according to the press release, it says, public health and youth protection must be placed at the heart of the renewed cannabis policy. Adults must be granted strictly regulated access to cannabis. In addition, to ensure that consumption is not encouraged, cannabis products must not be sold for profit and must be subject to an incentive tax. This is what is provided for in the draft drawn up by the National Council Social Security and Public Health Committee. The committee statement is it's available there to a link. The proposal then received further approval from Switzerland's government in July, setting the stage for the opening of the public consultation period. Now, they say here that consultation is more than a formal step. It's an opportunity to openly discuss opportunities and concerns. Only through a broad public debate can we create a cannabis law that ensures safety and acceptance in society, according to the president of the IG Hands Swiss, which is Swiss Hemp Industry Association. If enacted, the current version of the draft proposal would include allowing adults to cultivate up to 3 cannabis plants in their private residences, setting a private adult possession limit of 75 grams, allowing member-based cultivation associations to operate, prohibiting advertising, permitting national adult use cannabis sales, with Swiss cantons retaining local control, taxing legal sales, a heavy focus on boosting public health outcomes, a ban on vertical integration, capping sales to a total THC content of 5 grams, requiring seed-to-sale tracking, set hours of operation for retail locations and delivery systems, limiting legal sales to Switzerland citizens. Switzerland is not a member of the EU, but it does participate in the Schengen zone. Now, this zone is a border-free area. The bill allows for the free movement of goods, and Switzerland's participation in it will influence the nation's adult use cannabis commerce framework. Switzerland's heavy focus on enhancing public health outcomes and limiting cannabis industry profitability should help maintain compliance. The push for national adult use cannabis legalization in Switzerland builds on the success of the country's multiple regional adult use cannabis commerce pilot trials, the first of which launched in 2023. Currently, Uruguay, Canada, Malta, Luxembourg, Germany, South Africa, and the Czech Republic have adopted national adult use cannabis legalization members. Czech's law goes into effect on January the 1st, 2026. There you go. So there you go. Another country is working its way towards cannabis legalization. All righty, people. There we are. 8 stories. I really hope that the U.S. gets this act in gear. I know I bring it up almost every show. And, you know, if we just let it go, we don't say anything, they think everybody's happy. So you got to speak up. You want cannabis to be legal in the U.S.? Speak up. Say something. I know that many of you do now, but keep going at it and just don't stop. All right, people. That's the Pace News for today. Thanks to our buds at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, At-Eze.ca, and Limestone City Hydroponics. And as always, in closing, I'd like to say thank yous for tuning in and watching the program, or maybe listening to it on speaker. But other than that, please don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.